Well, hello there. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Diane's 9 o'clock hour. I'm so glad you're here. Tonight, I want to talk about boundaries, personal boundaries, and business boundaries. And I know you're wondering why I'm combining these two things. Well, it's because of Michigan. The state of Michigan has two dams that have been breached in the last 3-4 days. The dams have broken, literally. Water is flowing everywhere. Many people have lost their homes. CNN's got a terrific report on it. But you know what? Then there's two dams that are involved. I'm not sure what the names of them are, but I just wanted to get the basic facts for you tonight because it coincides with what I was also thinking about. The state of Michigan has had water problems for 20 years probably. The owners of the dams had been warned, not once, not twice, but several times and many times, that the waterways were not shored up enough to take on the problems that might happen if the dams would break. Now, I'm sure there are extenuating circumstances because, let's face it, if you're going to fix your house up, that's one thing. If you're going to fix a dam up, that's a whole nother avenue because of the massive amounts of work and workers and money that it would take to do something like that. So, I'm not belittling anybody because it's a tremendous amount of work that has to be done in order to keep something like that going on a regular basis, let alone when they have major problems. However, when they first started having those problems with technical issues and cracks and all kinds of things like that, they were not attended to in a proper manner. So we know that. And when a city or a municipality or a state, an entire state, has problems like that, it really hits the residents hard. And just last week I was talking about the fact that they had problems like 10 years ago with the water systems, and the governor had said that she wanted to stop the cutoffs to the residents in Detroit because the time had passed for that, and she didn't want the utility companies doing that. She didn't want them to shut the water off for the people. Well, it's a little too late now, but that's what neglect does when you are the head of the government in the state, and then people don't follow directions. And not only that, people don't follow them. The owners of companies have precluded the problems by not paying enough attention and not getting together to solve the problems. So that's really, the gist of the whole thing, is they did not work together to solve the problems. And of course, Mother Nature, you can't always depend on what she's going to do. I mean, we know that from storms and hurricanes and tornadoes and all kinds of things like that. But they just have not paid enough attention, to the problems that be. And I know they're convoluted and confused, and trust me, I'd be pulling my hair out. Big time. So Detroit and Michigan have some major problems that they're going to be going through, and that's because boundaries were not set strong enough. They were not reinforced strong enough to get the work done. And, sometimes we're like that. Sometimes we get stuck in our ways or just ticked off to no degree, and we're not going to work with this person, or we're not going to work with that person. We're just going to be bitchy. Or be an SOB, come on, let's get real. So, that type of thing is really hard to crack. It's like you're an egg, and the fragility of that shell around the egg is just like the fragility around your body and your mind and the dams. Imagine what a breaking dam would do to an egg. Smash it in a heartbeat. But that's the way life is. Unless we set our boundaries, and unless we start taking up for ourselves, or start taking up for other people who are having a hard time, or protecting ourselves. There are things that everybody needs to do. There are things that everybody needs to not put up with from other people, whether it's your spouse, or a child, or somebody else, or even a boss. Those are your primary responsibilities and people who affect you every day. So you need to think about taking a lot of deep breaths. Actually, if you want to take 3 deep breaths, I'll do it with you. We'll do 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. Now I want you to think about, let's say, the happiest day in your life. Was it your wedding day? Was it your 16th birthday? Your 21st birthday? 30th or 40th or 50th? We all need to remember that we have had good days, and good weeks and months, and sometimes good years. And that's what we all ideally would like to have, is a happy life. But we must take up for ourselves. We must pay attention to our businesses. We must pay attention to our politics. We must pay attention to our health. We must pay attention to our homes. And we must pay attention to our families. Period. If you've only got one member of your family left, or if you've got 25 or 250, we must pay attention to our families. Now, that does not mean that we have to accept everything that goes on in the family. It does not mean that we can absolve bad behavior in a minute, or 5 minutes, or sometimes even 5 days or 5 weeks. Our inner person can be a tender-hearted, loving person, but only when you put your boundaries up and when you respect your own boundaries. And I mean to tell you, that's one of the most important things you can do for your life ever. Because we, up to this point in our lives, we have come in contact with probably maybe 1 million people. When you parse it out over all your school years, all your jobs, and obviously depending on how old you are. Our partners, our intimate partners, our immediate families, yes, we need to pay attention to them. And we need to encourage them as well to not put up with any bullshit from anybody. Now, with little kids, it's a little different because they don't know. They're little, and the little guys and the little girls, they have no comprehension of what happens in the world besides their little sphere with you. And whether you're grandparents or regular parents, it doesn't make any difference. If you're taking care of them, that's the world they have. And I know sometimes we get sick, sometimes we don't feel good, and sometimes we're grumpy, and sometimes we're not. But that's a part of life. And figuring that part out as to where your boundaries are isn't very hard. But you need to put attention to that. You need to put time into that to figure out who or what is creating difficulties for you or your family or on your job or anywhere else. Now, even though we set our own boundaries, we have to remember that other people have boundaries as well. So we need to do some personal deep diving and deep thinking about the fact that when we're in a bad mood or having a bad day or a bad hour, are we projecting our problems onto somebody else? And yeah, I know it's going to take time to work through that. But that's something that we really need to do. We need to not put our problems onto somebody else. Now, there are times when we don't feel good or we can't take care of our own problems. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we put our problems on somebody else's shoulders. Because we're all, number one, responsible for ourselves. And I know when we don't feel good, you don't feel like doing for yourself sometimes, but you still need to do it. And that's with how you treat other people and making sure that they're treating you correctly. Now, I'm not talking about being bitchy. I'm talking about just general, the way we all are. Maybe we need to change some things. Maybe we need to respect others' privacy just like we would like our privacy respected. And that means not constantly finding fault with somebody or injecting yourself into some situation that you shouldn't be in the first place. We all make some mistakes occasionally. And as long as we own up to them and haven't created too much havoc, the other person will generally accept an apology. But you've got to remember boundaries, yours and other people's as well. And you need to respect their boundaries just like you want someone else to respect your boundaries. Yeah, there's a whole lot of different words that can be used along these lines. Let me check my notes a second. When your boundaries are broken, and you know that there are certain people who just do that, they know how to do it, they know how to get to you. And, you know, that's in families usually. You need to carefully think about those boundaries and what you're going to do and what you're going to say the next time one of those boundaries is breached. Just like the water breaching the dam walls. Yeah, the dam walls. And when somebody is getting close to breaching an old habit, a bad habit, let's say, you need to stand up. You need to say, "Oh, no, you don't. Don't say that to me. Don't try to intimidate me." And you need to look them right in the eye and say it. You might have been putting up for shit for years, but that doesn't mean you have to continue putting up with shit for more years. And without getting into details and stuff here, you know what this shit is that other people have been trying to project on you. Or maybe your boss has been trying to project on you things that he doesn't want to do or doesn't like to do, or she doesn't want to do or like to do. You need to think about ways to get that to stop, or to subside at least. Even if it's saying, "Oh, I've got a terrible headache today. You know, I can't deal with this today. Do you mind if we put this off till tomorrow? But would you bring some parameters with you?" I mean, everybody's human. Ask for what you need. You know, if you're having a bad day, and everybody has bad days once in a while, think about how to solve the problem before it happens, especially if it's happened before and you're tired of it. You know? I mean, if you want to greatly improve your life and greatly improve your job or your business, you know, maybe you've got some business partners that aren't acting right, that are just backbiting everybody. Maybe they've got personal problems. Give that person time off. Tell them to take 3 days off or a week off. Have a face-to-face meeting with just them and say, "I notice you've not been quite yourself lately. Is there anything I can do? Do you want me to find a counselor for you? Or would you like personnel to help you with a personal problem to get some counseling?" I mean, you know, I'd be willing to do that to help you out, because right now you're a mess. You know, you've got some things that I can tell are bothering you, and it's not right to bring them into work. And I respect you for the work that you've done and that you can do, but you need to solve a couple of problems first, whatever they are, or at least start working on them. You know, and you can talk to anybody like that, because there are ways to do it. You know, if you want a better work life and a better boss life and a better company life, sometimes you have to say, "Hey, boss, can I talk to you for a minute? Can we set a time to do that? I really would appreciate it. I need to talk to somebody, and right now I'd like it to be you." Be honest. If you need to talk to your best friend about something that's been bothering you, about their activities or the things that they've been doing, I mean, maybe you're worried about them. Call them. set up a time to go talk, or to at least have a phone conversation. Because that's all we've got, folks. The best thing you have is your mind and your heart and your body and your thought processes. And if you're having problems with any of that, then call for coaching. Call somebody. Call your regular doctor if you think you need to be referred to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a nutritionist for that matter. Some things that make you feel bad physically, it depends on your blood pressure, depends on your general health. If your health is not good, if you're always suffering from headaches or backaches or something, you need to do something. Don't keep putting that off, because the more you do, the worse it's going to get. No, I'm not a doctor, but I've got common sense and a certain amount of spirituality that I think I could talk to whoever is listening and remind you that there is help out there. I'm a spiritualist. I can help you only so much because I'm not a psychiatrist and I don't pretend to be. I'm not an MD doctor. I don't pretend to be. But yes, I can work with you for some spiritual coaching. But you need to contact me to do that. So think about all that. We all need to set boundaries. I know sometimes they get broken, sometimes we break them, but that's because we're human. And we just need to be cognizant enough to say, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I've promised myself I'm not going to do that anymore. And if I start to do it, would you please remind me? Because we all need reminders. We're all human, so to speak. So that's what I have for you tonight, folks. There are ways to solve personal problems with friends and lovers and husbands and wives and everybody. There are ways to do it and there are ways not to do it. Maybe you're breaching somebody else's boundary. I don't know. It's a possibility. But I want you to think about doing everything you can to calm yourself down. There are many musical tapes for meditation, and I may look into getting some that you could probably download here for free. I'm going to look into that this week, because I think everybody could use that once in a great while. So if anybody's still out there and you're still listening, send me a heart or a like or something like that so on the side so I can see you. Would like to see what you're doing there. Let me push this button. So thank you for being here tonight. I do appreciate it. If you would like to contact me, you can contact me through Facebook or you can give me a call. My number is 443-942-0096. Be glad to talk to you. Thank you, and you have a good night. See you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Get my glasses on. Oh boy, now we've got lots of things up here. What happened to my finish? Well, looks like it's going to take me a minute, folks. All of a sudden my screen changed. And it was not. There we are. Bye, folks. Have a good night.